So this is the behavior monitoring analysis system-based demo. And in here, notice that we started working on a virtual machine to avoid any compromises. And we stopped all security controls on that virtual machine so that those security controls don't interfere in our analysis, like anti-malwares. So we're going to be using two tools, and the idea from those tools is to actually capture registry keys, file modifications, and processes, threads, and whatsoever. So the first tool is called wrist shot, and the idea of wrist shot is you start first creating a shot, then you run the malware, then you create a second shot, then you compare the values of it. So let's create the first shot. When the first snapshot is created, you see I can save it. It prompts me to save it, so I'm going to save it in the logs, save, and call it snap1. Now the next step is basically we will run the malware and run a second shot for comparison. We're also in between going to use something called process monitoring. Process monitoring is another tool that provides the processes in real time. So it's interesting in that sense, and it's different from wrist shot in that sense, but it collects similar kind of data. I did a filter to avoid having too many logs, and the filter is if the process name is Windows Live Messenger, then I want to see the logs of it. So I kept that process. Okay, it's running, and I'll check. Okay, so now we have the process monitoring, and as you see, there is no logs, there is no capture. I started the capture, but still there is no logs because we had that filter. So let's run the malware, and okay, so we have it in Live Messenger, and let's try running it with all its capabilities so that we can actually analyze that. And I ran the malware, so you suddenly start seeing logs here. And to get the most of it, we should interact. So I'll type in some random email. I hope it's random. I hope there is no user that I'm spamming with malware malicious information. So sign in something something. Okay. And we'll get an error message. I examine the error message. See, already I started learning something about the tool without even going into the logs. It says we're unable to sign you. It might be legitimate because I actually did put fake credentials. I don't know. So I close the error message, I close MSN Messenger, and then pop-up comes out. That's not abnormal, that has no explanation. I pick this information. I know that it must be beneficial for my analysis. And one thing, you always have to keep good notes for malware analysis. So let's close that. Let's stop the capture here. You can see that you are capturing actually registry activities, file activities, network activities, process and thread activities, profiling events, and so on. I prefer actually reading the logs through a CSV, so I'll save that to analyze. But also I want to continue the second snapshot of wrist shot so that I can compare. So the second snapshot is ready, it prompts me to save it, snap2, save. And now after it saves, we can click on compare, and it will create yet another plain text with all the differences in the different elements like registry keys and files and so on. So let's compare. After the compare has finished, Notepad opens with some information. I'm not going to go into the details of the logs. You see some of the registry keys were highlighted as suspicious and as blacklisted or as to keep an eye on from VirusTotal. So they are important information, and this is by itself looks weird, the zeros, the list of zeros. But I'm going to cheat and go directly to what attracted my attention most. So we have two files that have been created, Windows MSN setting.data and pass.txt. So control copy, already I have new information. So control V, those files are created after we ran the malware. So let's see, this is wrist shots comparison. Let's see what process monitor says about the same thing. So this is the logs I saved earlier from process monitor. Unfortunately, I don't have an Excel here, otherwise I prefer opening it in Excel. Let's see the same files, pass.txt. It has been created successfully. And let's see, MSN setting. Search, maybe we have to go all the way up. So maybe it has been created in a earlier timestamp. So you go all the way up and find next, and again you see that here it has been accessed by the malware messenger set. Okay, so that's cool. Now we see similar logs between two tools. Let's see what actually are in those files. So MSN setting, there is one which came with the zip folder, so I'll open it and see if it's similar to the one that was created. So it was created in, well, I know it because I've done it, I know it by heart. So it has been created, the pass.txt has been created in the C drive. Let's open one. And look, we have the URL that MSN Messenger tried to access. We have the credentials in clear text. That is already very suspicious. Let's see the other file, MSN setting. So it's very similar to what we got in the zip. So I wonder if there is differences or are they same. So I kept the one earlier open. So you have hello. And the second one is test. So they're very similar. There is a few exceptions, but they look very similar. They seem to be like parameters that the MSN Messenger uses. So yeah, you see, this might be interesting. I don't know what MSN Messenger is doing with this kind of strings. Weird email with a weird, seems like a domain name for an SMTP server. Control copy. And I will save that in my notes too. Okay, so that's it for now. We learned about two tools. We saw what we can get from them. It's not much of in depth. We will continue more details in other tools in other demos.